I'm glad that you've chosen to be with me again for some kernels of Jewish knowledge as we begin the second book of the Bible called Shmot in Hebrew, in English, Exodus. We finished with the book of Genesis, and now we start a whole new tack with completely different premises and a way of approaching who we are and what our responsibility is in the world with the book of Exodus. Let's talk about Moses to begin with. Moses, as you know, was set adrift on the Nile River when it is decreed that the firstborn males should drown in the river. He is picked up by the daughter of Pharaoh and raised in the house of Pharaoh. He is a prince. He's the person who has every need of his addressed. He has all the food, all the clothes, all the things that he could possibly desire responded to even before he articulates them. What does he need? Nothing. And Moses one day goes out of the house of Pharaoh, the palace, and discovers something that appalls his sense of morality. He sees an Egyptian beating a Jew, and he immediately responds by striking down the Egyptian and then ultimately running for his life, removing himself from everything he's grown up with. I want you to contrast this to another story that you also know very well, but not in our tradition, but in the Buddhist tradition. Buddha's brought up in the house of prosperity. There's nothing that he lacks. There's nothing that he wants. He has all the food, all the nourishment, all the education, everything that he could possibly require, just like Moses. And then one day he leaves the palace walls to discover outside disease, death, people suffering greatly, and he can't believe his eyes. What he does is he goes out on a trip to redeem himself, to find out who he truly is at his core level. He's on a mission to discover nirvana, a kind of personal, internal utopia. Moses, on the other hand, runs for his life and then runs back to the court of Pharaoh to confront Pharaoh with redeeming the people of Israel, redeeming the slaves that have been indentured to Pharaoh unwillingly for hundreds of years. And now, after that, after they're finally redeemed, he takes the people and leads them on a trek through the desert to the final liberation. These two characters are so similar in the way that they begin their life and so dissimilar in the way that they carry out what they perceive to be their mission in life. Again, Buddha is concerned with the self, where Moses is concerned with the other. He's concerned with, how do I make this a better world? It's not just about me, but how do I make this a better place for us all? How do I stop the suffering that I see that is not about me, but is about us? You know, in the Jewish tradition, when we daven, when we pray, it's always in the first person plural. It's not about the first person singular. It's about us. It's not about me. Big difference, a huge difference between these two traditions. One other thought that I want to leave you with is that the book of Exodus in Hebrew is rendered as Shmot, which means names. We know all the names of the sons of Jacob at the end of the book of Genesis because they were enumerated very clearly. And then they were enumerated again as we open at the book of Exodus. And they're named again. What is the value of calling this book by the name of names, Shmot, and then enumerating the same names again? If not for the value of names. Do you know the name of the famous Holocaust Museum in Israel? It's called Yad Vashem. It's called a hand and a name. That's what it renders in English, a hand and a name. Why? Because we don't want to forget the names of 6 million victims of the atrocities committed by the Nazi regime. Much the same way, when your name is mentioned on a street, may not even be you, but somebody says your name, and then you turn around, your attention is arrested by having heard your name. A name is a valuable thing. And a name is, again, it's not about recognizing our call, our name, but it's recognizing the name of every other human being that exists. Again, the difference is profound between these two characters, Buddha and Moses. It's not about you, it's about us. It's about what we do with our life. It's what we do to liberate not only ourselves, but to liberate the larger sense of humanity. This is our call, and this is our destiny.